Okay, we've got the transfer hydrogenation of olive oil. First step, we're going to weigh out our olive oil in our conical vial. We'll do that over here on the balance. I'll set my vial down and tear it out once it stabilizes. Milligrams. And I'm just going to do this dropwise. And this will be 0.4 on our scale. Went a little bit over, and that's okay. We'll factor that into our calculations moving forward. So we've got 450 milligrams of olive oil in our conical vial. I'll go ahead and take that off, and I'm going to set it over here in the aluminum block. That's where we're going to heat our mixture once we get it set. Okay, now we're going to weigh out our second reagent, which is our palladium on carbon. That's our catalyst. So I'll head over and get that out of the hood. This is a very fine powder, so you have to be very careful when you're weighing it out. We've added a top here. The weight is so small that even air fluctuations across the top of the balance can cause problems. So we're going to open this up. We'll close it when we actually do our weighing. We've got our folded weigh paper. Put that in the center. We're going to tear this out. And then each time we add powder, we'll put the top back on and measure it. Gotten it spot on, we'll see. That is pretty darn close. That's right on the number. Okay, that looks pretty good. So we've got, we'll call it 51 milligrams. So 51 milligrams for our palladium on carbon. Take the top off. Palladium on carbon back on the shelf. Now I've got to put this palladium on carbon into our conical vial. The way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to make a small funnel out of one of our weighing papers. Bring it out here. We've got our olive oil that's already inside. And the reason we do this is just to make it a little bit easier to pour. This powder can get onto everything. So we're going to fold this into the center. We're going to put it into our funnel here, and then we're going to tap it down. And that just saves us from making a mess. We're going to lose a little bit. Of course, small amounts of it will stick on the paper, but that's to be expected. Make sure we get everything through our funnel. And now we're ready to go with a minimum of mess. All right, our next step is to measure out our cyclohexene. That's going to be our source of hydrogen for our transfer hydrogenation. Getting our cyclohexene out of the hood. Now this has a very strong, pungent odor, so we're going to make absolutely sure that we work with this under our snorkel. Make sure the snorkel is on. Yep, we're safe. we're good to go. We're getting 1 milliliter of this. And even with the snorkel going, it's pretty pungent. And that is right at 1 milliliter. I'm going to get this back into the hood as quick as I can. Ooh, that stinks. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and pour that into our vial. Be very careful not to spill anything. And we're good to go. We have all 3 of our components ready and mixed in the bottom. We've got a little bit of our palladium on carbon up on the sides of the vial, but that'll get washed down as we start to reflux. We're going to add a spin vane into the bottom, point down. And of course we're going to heat it using the aluminum block. I try and put the aluminum block as close to the center of the heating plate as I can, so that when we're stirring, we're right over the magnet. I'm going to go ahead and seal it up using our micro condenser. So the first thing that I do is I'll put my cap. Got to make sure I've got my O-ring. I don't know, can we see that? Okay. We've got the O-ring that will go up above the ground glass joint, so that when we set it in place and we tighten it down, we'll have a nice good seal. Again, we don't want to smell any of that cyclohexene if we can help it. Push that back into place, and then we'll go ahead and clamp it. And we're ready to go. Let me grab some water hoses and I'll set up the condenser. Okay, so I want to show you the data sheet here. We're going to record, we forgot to record our amount of cyclohexene that we added. So we did exactly 1 milliliter. So make sure that we record that on our sheet. And now we're going to set up the reflux condenser, or finish setting it up. We've already got everything hooked together, except for our water hoses. We'll put one hose on the bottom. Of course, that is going to be our fill hose. That's where our water comes in. So that's going to go right onto our spigot. And then the second hose is our drain hose. This is the only way, if you put it together in the reverse, we wouldn't get a full reflux condenser, which means that as we were starting to boil, we'd have a lot of vapors escaping, and that's not something that we want to have happening. So we'll go ahead and turn this on very gently. And we're going to check the outflow on our hose, our drain hose. And that's about as strong as you want it to be. It does not have to be flowing very quickly. If it flows too quickly, that's the easiest way to blow a hose and to cover yourself in water, which is not what we want here. So we're ready to go. We've got everything set up. We just have to bring in our snorkel. So our snorkel is ready for us here, just in case any of our fumes escape. We're going to set it to reflux for 45 minutes. And we're going to do that at about 85 degrees. Now the reflux period does not begin until it starts to boil, right? That reflux period, meaning the 45 minutes that we're going to have this refluxing, we have to wait until the actual reflux begins, and then we'll wait 45 minutes, and then we'll be ready to work up the experiment. Okay, while we're waiting for our reflux, we're going to go ahead and build our filtration pipette. Once we get done with our reaction, we're going to have to filter the palladium out of our reaction mixture. So I'm going to do that using a glass pipette that I put into a clamp, suspended it over a 600 ml beaker, and I'm going to put a small plug of cotton into the end of the pipette so that it will hold our filtration compound, which is Sealite. So we'll put that into the top, and we're going to use a copper wire to tamp it down, and we're going to do this very lightly We don't want it to plug the end, otherwise nothing will flow through. So I'll just lightly set that on top, and now I'm going to start putting sea light in using a spatula. This can be a messy process. That's why I've got the 600 ml beaker, because I'm going to miss the top of this pipette pretty easily, but that's okay. We're going to catch everything as it comes down. We need about an inch of sea light. Once we get a little bit in there, then we can take out our copper wire, and that will make it a little bit easier to get the sea light actually into our glass pipette. And it does make a mess. Okay, we'll go ahead and get that down inside. So we've got about a good inch of our sea light. I'll give it a quick tap just to pack it down. I may put a little bit more in there just to be safe. We don't want to have to filter more than once. And there we go. All right, we'll get this cleaned up, and then we'll go back and check on our reflux. Okay, so we've got our stir bar spinning in the conical vial. Our reflux has begun. We can start to see some of our cyclohexene recondensing out of the condenser, so we will give it about 45 minutes and we'll come back and check on it. Okay, so we've gotten through our reflux period. We've turned off our stirrer. Now it's time to let this mixture cool down so that we can put it through our filter pipette that we have over off to the side. In order to do that, I'm going to keep it under the snorkel. I'm going to raise it up just a little bit, and I'm going to shift the aluminum block and the hot plate away and let it hang in midair until it reaches room temperature. Then we'll start the filtration process. Okay, so we're going to finish preparing our filter pipette by rinsing 1 milliliter of hexane through the sea light to help compact it. Let me see, where's my one? There it is. Okay. And then once we do that, we'll go get our reaction mixture. And we'll start pushing it through our filter pipette. Actually, the best way to do this, it's too deep to get into that. So we'll do it through here. And then we'll just set it right at the top. And you can see, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, as it starts to drain through, that's just compacting down the sea light and making it a little bit better in terms of filtration. Everything is tightly packed and it'll be able to catch all these palladium on carbon particles. Now what I've done here is I put a transfer pipette bulb, and I'm just gently pressing down, and that's going to make it so that it will run through the sea light a little bit faster. Then I break the seal, and then we should be all set. I think we're prepped and ready for our reaction solution. Still going? So we've got our reaction solution. It's been hanging in midair for a little while. It's cool to the touch. So we're ready to go. We'll just unscrew this. Pull it free, making sure that we catch any liquid that might be around the edge here. I'm going to remember, I haven't turned this off yet because I wanted to make sure that we still had water running through. Now this is still fairly pungent, so I'm going to bring it over and we're going to make sure that we're underneath our snorkel here. I'm going to use that same glass pipette. And we'll collect all of our reaction fluid, all of our mixture. Pipette it slowly onto our filtration pipette. Go back and make sure if I had anything remaining that I get it all out. And load it in. We're going to let that run for just a second. If you look down here, we can see pockets. That's pockets where the sea light wasn't quite packed tightly enough. We're still catching all of those particles before they make it through into our pure product here. What we hope is fully hydrogenated fat. We're going to see in just a minute once we try and solidify it. Now, as that runs down, I'm going to use my pipette bulb to push it through so we don't have to wait for gravity to do its work. I'll put that on the top, and then I'll give it a gentle push. I don't want to push too hard, because then I could potentially force some of the particulate through our filter, and then we'd have to do this all over again. So it's a balance between pressure to make things go a little bit faster and not causing a problem. Now this liquid that we're collecting is going to be a combination of, if the reaction has occurred as we expected it to, benzene, which is one of our byproducts, and our fat. The palladium monoCarbon is caught on the filtration pipette, and then we're going to have a little bit of hexane in here. I'm going to break this seal, and that hexane is going to be introduced right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take about 1 ml of hexane, and I'm going to rinse out the reaction vessel so that we get any remaining product into our final beaker here. Okay, so that's another ml. I'm going to pour that into the reaction vessel. And we may have to do more than 1 milliliter. I hope that we won't. We don't want to introduce too much hexane into the mixture, because that's just more that we have to evaporate off in just a minute. Okay, so I'm just mixing it around to make sure that I get everything nice and washed and rinsed. Then I'll pipette it out. And we'll put it back onto our pipette. Oops. I'm going to push it through again, give it a little bit of pressure. And there we go. Now, there was a little bit of a snafu. Let's take a look at our product mixture here. I don't know if you can see that, but there is definitely some black particulate. As I was pipetting in that last rinse, I got a little bit down the side of the pipette. But all we have to do to fix that is we're going to draw this back up. We'll put it through the pipette one more time, and it should come out nice and clear. Okay, so we're going to take our mixture here that has a little bit of our, you can see it a little bit better in the pipette there. Of course, we're against a black background, that doesn't help. We've got some of our particulate, and we're going to put it back into the pipette, the filter pipette, one more time. The nice thing about this is that even if you do have a little bit of a snafu, it's easily recoverable. So put that in. I'll get the remainder here so that we've got all of our product. Now, as you're writing up your lab report, this of course can be a source of error, so it's something to bear in mind. I'm going to get another bulb here so I can gently push that through. And we'll gather some nice clear product. Each time we filter, there is the possibility of leaving some of our product in the filtration pipette. So make sure that you mark that down and make note of it in your report. Okay, let's get the last little bit loaded. Okay, and another gentle push at the end here. Just to make sure that we've got the last little bit, I'm going to put a little bit more hexane in there just to do a rinse. This will make it, well, this will add on a little bit of time to our evaporation step, but that's okay. We're not going to force you to watch that. We'll do a time lapse, or we'll just warp forward to the end once we're finished. So I'm giving it a gentle push. You probably can see from that angle a little bit better how the meniscus is coming down to the top of our pipette. And there we go. I think we've got the majority of what we're going to get out of that. So now that we're nice and filtered, we've got our solution. It's got a slight golden tinge to it, and that's the oil, that's the fat that we've created. What we're going to do now is we're going to place it, and I'm going to hold it. We've got benzene in there, so it's very pungent, so I'm going to hold it under the snorkel here. I'm going to go place it onto that hot plate you see in the distance over there, and we're going to put a snorkel on it, and we're going to evaporate off any of the byproduct, both the hexane and the benzene. Once we get finished with that, then we'll go through the process of solidifying it so that we can get a melting point. Okay, so we're all set up. We're going to let that evaporate for a while. Notice our temperature, we're at 85 degrees. We don't want to go any higher than 90 degrees. And we're going to let that run for just a bit. See if we can't get rid of some of that volatile benzene or all of the benzene and our hexane. Okay, so we've had our solution on the hot plate for a while now, and it looks like it is nice and viscous. We haven't seen the volume change significantly in a while. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it off. Go ahead and turn off our hot plate. So we've got our liquid here. And we're going to make an ice bath, and we're going to set this in the ice bath, and we're going to have it solidify for us. Put a little bit of water in our ice bath. Sorry, I'm running away from you. Okay. And we'll set our beaker in there and give it a chance to solidify over the next probably 5 to 10 minutes. We'll see how long it takes. Okay, so we've taken our solidified fat out of the ice bath. And if you can see that, it's a nice white solid, waxy solid. Does that show up okay? All right. It is completely stuck to the bottom of that beaker, not going anywhere. So it's a full solid. What we're going to do now is we're going to weigh it, of course, in the beaker. So we've got 50.09. 50.09 grams, and that is our product plus the beaker. After we get finished, we'll clean out the beaker, we'll reweigh it, we'll subtract out, and we'll have our full, we'll have our total weight for our recovered product. But now we're going to get our melting point. And the way that we're going to determine that, this is a solid currently. We're going to set up a warm water bath. We've got our thermometer ready to read the temperature of the bath. This is our warm water bath. We're just going to lay this down inside of it, slowly warm it up, and we'll wait for it to melt. So we've set up our warm water bath. We've got our thermometer in the warm water, or in the warming water. We have our beaker with our fat suspended in the middle. And now we're just going to wait for it to warm up and melt. We'll come back once it has. Okay, we're currently at about 37 degrees, and we can see that our fat is starting to sweat a little bit. In fact, it's starting to get decidedly liquid. It's not yet melted, but 37 is definitely the starting point. Okay, so we've hit 39 degrees centigrade, and as you can see, we're completely melted. So our melting point range for the fat that we've created here is 37 to 39 degrees centigrade. We'll fill that in on our sheet here. (37 to 39 degrees centigrade). And now we're going to go ahead and clean out this beaker, weigh it clean, and we'll be able to get the final weight of our fat. Okay, so we've cleaned out our beaker, no more fat. We're going to go ahead and weigh this, subtract it off of our total weight of our product plus our beaker, and we'll get our total product weight. So we've got 49.67. 49.67 grams for our beaker only. So 50.09 minus 49.67 will give us 0.42, so 402 milligrams. Whoops. And that's our final product weight. We'll use that to determine our overall yield for this reaction.